All right, we'll get started. Thank you for coming. My name is Robin Bly. I am the Grant Program Administrator for the HCBS program. Just to let you all know, this session is being recorded and will be posted online after the session. So just be cognizant of that. I did change it so you can unmute yourselves to ask a question. Otherwise, if you're more comfortable, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that as we go along. So this year, the fiscal year 2023 year.
Now it sounds like, when they talked to her, there was some pretty big.
All right.
It was definitely.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to say, make sure you've muted yourself. Thank you so much. So this year, the fiscal year 2023 year, there have been pretty significant changes to this program. In the spring session, the legislators added loan forgiveness to the program and also made a couple of other eligibility changes for folks. So we'll go through those. I will have time at the end for questions, so feel free to ask at that time. So with that, we'll get started. And we will begin with the program description. So this program is authorized by Minnesota State Statutes 144.1503. As you know, it funds employee scholarships and repaying qualified educational loans secured by employees for education in nursing and other healthcare fields. This is really meant to focus on those folks providing direct care to our residents and clients and elderly in the state of Minnesota. As we know, there's a large workforce shortage in these positions, and so this is meant to help train up our workforce and help them be successful while providing the best care to residents of Minnesota. Just so you know, the grant funds must be used to cover costs related to the course of study that is expected to advance them within the HCBS field. So if you have employees who are working for you as a CNA or LPN and they might be moving into a different career, unfortunately, their loans would not be covered. This year, the funds available, there is $1.45 million available. We expect to award between 25 and 30 different grantees this year. The estimated maximum award is $125,000, and the minimum award is $12,000. And the reason why this amount is the $12,000, those of you who are familiar with the program in years past have seen higher numbers here. This incorporates the loan forgiveness. So we will be doing $6,000 per year for individuals who qualify for loan forgiveness. This is a competitive grant opportunity, so it's important to remember that as you are writing your grant application. And also know that there can't be any activity on the grant prior to the full execution of the contract, meaning that the signatures need to be on there from both you as a grantee and MDH. So just general information about the program. Again, this year we will be accepting applications from parent organizations. So if your organization has many sites throughout the state, know that you'll apply once and be able to disperse those funds to your different sites. This really helps make sure that funding is used up in a contract year so that you can move funding around between your different sites and make sure all of your employees have access who might be eligible. There is no grant match required for this program, so the funding can all come straight from the state of Minnesota. Project dates are June 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026. We do not require collaboration on this grant, but we do encourage it. So working with different secondary and post-secondary institutions, trying to find staff, recruiting staff, bringing the training to those entities, working directly with them, or working directly with trainers who provide the certifications that are eligible in this program. So to be eligible as a grantee, you must be a nonprofit or for-profit organization located in the state of Minnesota. I know that sometimes we have parent organizations who might be in our border states. That's fine as long as the licenses being held are in the state of Minnesota and the employees being served are Minnesota state employees. So to be eligible, you must also primarily provide services to clients 65 years and older. We do know that some of our HCBS programming is open to those with disabilities and those who might be younger than 65, but the primary clientele served must be 65 years or older. Grantees must hold one of the following licenses: an assisted living facility, adult daycare facility, and home care services provider. You must also offer or plan to offer a scholarship program and or loan forgiveness program. As far as this grant's outcomes and priorities, we're hoping, like I said, to see an increased number of staff in the HCBS field. Really, we're focusing on those nursing and direct care providers, especially for the loan forgiveness. We'll be looking at the RN and BSN fields, and LPN, excuse me, as well. But for the scholarship, we really want to see those folks who are providing that direct care. Other programs are also eligible, and we'll go over those later. Grantees should demonstrate retention of HCBS employees serving across Minnesota, and priority will be given to folks outside of the 7-county metro area. And as far as loan forgiveness, there will be priority for providers who have an operating budget of less than $2 million and 50 or fewer clients that they serve. This is trying to make sure that resources get to those smaller entities as best as possible. But the larger entities are still eligible, but priority will be given to the smaller entities. So your scholarship recipients, these are your employees who are eligible for the program. The training and certifications, again, must lead to career advancement within the long-term field. So focusing on home care, care of persons with disabilities, the licensed assisted living director certification, and nursing within the HCBS field. Trainings must be industry recognized. They can be stackable course credits, helping folks get their degree, licenses, or diplomas, and be awarded in recognition of the individual's attainment of those technical skills. This is new this year. Employees must work an average of 10 hours per week to be eligible for scholarship funding. In the past, they were eligible if they worked 16 hours a week, but we wanted to make sure that this matched the skilled nursing facility scholarship side from DHS. So 10 hours is the minimum that folks need to work to be eligible for scholarships. This is just an overall slide of different training courses, excuse me. Again, the CNA, LPN, RN, BSN, the licensed assisted living director, social work, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and then some of the other trainings that are highlighted are trained medical aid, certified dementia care, interpreter services, job-related English as a second language. This list is not all-inclusive. If you do have questions specifically about your application, feel free to reach out. I will answer and then share the answers in the frequently asked questions that are posted each week on the website. Again, not an all-inclusive list, but eligible scholarship expenses includes tuition, textbook materials, mileage, childcare, the training of a facilitator who might be providing the training in your facility, and then entrance or licensure exams. Standard non-allowable expenses for the state of Minnesota includes fundraising, taxes, lobbying, bad debts, administering the grant. But also this program does not pay for the employee wages while they're attending school, courses that are not related to the HCBS field, out-of-state travel, food and beverage outside of the training or course, equipment and supplies and capital improvements are also not covered in this grant. And again, if you ever have questions on what an eligible activity might be, feel free to reach out. On the loan forgiveness side of this program this year, the way it will work is that the employers will nominate employees for loan forgiveness, and then the employees of the funded grant applications will work directly with the state. We will issue the money directly to the employee so that you don't have to do that pass through with this program. Employees must work an average of 32 hours per week for 45 weeks of the year. This matches our Minnesota Healthcare Loan Forgiveness Program that is administered through the Office of Rural Health and Primary Care. We know that these folks have their degrees, and so they do have the ability to work more hours. Employees must agree to work for a minimum of 2 years for the HCBS provider. We do know that folks might move, and while we want them to stay with you, the grantee who wrote the application, they will remain eligible if they do stay with another licensed entity that fits the eligibility criteria. So if you do have an employee who is not going to be making the 2-year commitment, have them reach out directly to the Office of Rural Health, directly to me, and we will talk about eligibility. If they don't meet that eligibility of the 32 hours for 45 weeks or staying with an HCBS provider listed under the statute of this grant program, the employee is required to pay the funding back if they fall out of eligibility. For this program, we are going to be focusing on the LPN, RN, BSN, and statute does require the LALD, Licensed Assisted Living Director position for this. Eligible loan types are government loans, commercial loans, or foundation loans. Ineligible loan types include credit card debt, loans from different family members or other entities that are just personal connections, Parent Plus loans, and loans that are in current or active default. Should an employee have a rehabilitated loan that is now in good standing and remains in good standing for the contract period, then they can be considered eligible. There are standard grant contract obligations that all grantees in the state of Minnesota have. We've all seen the recent audits and things like that happening, so this is just a reminder that work cannot start prior to the full execution. Again, the signatures being on the grant contract. Grant activities approved in the Exhibit A of this contract are the only approved activities. You can request a budget modification, but you cannot make those changes on your own. You must have prior approval from the Office of Rural Health and Primary Care. Grantees must report on financial and programmatic activities on a quarterly basis. This is done through the grant management system, our grant portal. This is on January 20th, April 20th, July 20th, and October 20th. And those grantees who receive an award of over $50,000 will have one grant monitoring visit and financial reconciliation done during their grant contract period. So again, this is a competitive process. The review process goes through this general outline. We in our office determine if you meet the initial eligibility. So are your clients primarily over the age of 65 years of age? Do you hold one of the 3 licenses? And are you located in the state of Minnesota? Those are the 3 basic eligibility before you are moved on to the evaluation panels. Depending on the number of applicants, there's a number of evaluation panels that happen, and the evaluators look at the following criteria. Demonstrated ability of the applicant to administer their programs, demonstrated need for loan forgiveness or scholarship programs, the applicability of courses and degree programs that are outlined, the attachment to RFP priority areas, and the reasonableness of the budget. These are all outlined in the request for proposal that's posted on the ORHPC website, and you'll see different questions in the scoring rubric that you can go through and self-evaluate to see how you might score yourself. Also know that prior to contracting, we do complete a due diligence and past performance review of your organization. So looking at how you performed on past grant contracts, and do you have other scholarship program funding still available? Is it needed by you? You know, are there other organizations that don't have funding? So looking at those things as well. So as far as the application goes, like I said, we conduct this process through our grants management system, which many of you know as the grant portal. Applications are due at 11:59 p.m. on January 6th. To be fair and equitable, we do post all questions that come in leading up to the deadline of the grant application. So I will stop at taking questions on December 29th at 4:30 p.m. Those will then be posted, and that way everybody has a chance to hear what questions are being asked and then know the answers. We want everybody to have equal information going forward. So this is an opportunity that I'm going to take for folks to ask questions, and I see some questions in the chat here, so bear with me while I check that. Okay, are we eligible to apply for scholarship program funding for HCBS if we will not have graduate level positions to offer the employee after completion? Yes, the employee needs to be working in a direct care position and be obtaining a degree that will lead to advancement in the long-term care field. So even if you at your organization don't offer that position, it still helps them advance their education, and they might be able to move on to other organizations later, or stay with you while they're still in those positions. Are entities eligible to apply for the grant if they already have a scholarship-related grant open? Yes. As I mentioned, there is that past performance that's examined. We do have grantees who are awarded funds in a new contract because they're using up the funds and they know that they're going to need more funds moving forward. So one of the best things that you can be doing is making sure that you're using up previous funds, and we want to see activity there as far as past performance goes. But you can apply for new funding. Maybe you have new scholarship areas that you're hoping to offer, or you have new employees, or your contract ends on December 31st, 2023, and you're applying for the new round of funding. Another question is, can a hospice and home care organization apply? You have home care services. You must hold one of the 3 licenses. Hospice organizations fit under the skilled nursing typically. And so if you don't hold one of the 3 licenses that are outlined in the request for proposal, the assisted living, the home care services, then you are not eligible. But please know that the Department of Human Services does have another scholarship program that matches this one pretty significantly. And if you need a contact for that grant program manager, I would be happy to get that to you. Another question is that we have a current HCBS scholarship for an employee that was awarded in 2022. Can we apply for another opportunity for a different employee? Absolutely. That goes back to one of the previous questions that I answered, in that if you have your funds allocated to past employees or other employees with other contracts, you can certainly apply for the new employees as well. If we are awarded loan forgiveness grant funds and the employee nominated doesn't work 2 years, can we do a budget modification to give that to another employee loan forgiveness, or reimburse employees for CNA certification, LPN, RN licenses, etc.? Unfortunately, you will have to, the contract is with the individual. So instead of you as the grantee signing the contract for loan forgiveness specifically, this does not apply to the scholarship funding. So if you nominate an employee who doesn't work with your entity for 2 years, they will either have to move to another HCBS provider eligible under the same criteria as this program, and our office would handle all of that work, or they would have to repay the loan. And that funding would then come back to the HCBS Employee Scholarship and Loan Forgiveness Program. So it's not tied to you as the grantee, but it's tied to the employee. With this program, grantees have always been able to set their own contracts, that their contracts and application process that their employees sign with the employer. So should you yourselves require them to stay with you for 2 years before they enter into a contract with the state of Minnesota, that is your choice. But our legislation does not require that they stay with you, the organization, just that they stay with an HCBS program. What monitoring does a grant awardee have to do for hours and time worked for the loan forgiveness portion? So that is all administered directly by the Office of Rural Health. We will work directly with the employee to make sure that they have a statement from their employee stating that they worked. So an employee on an annual basis will have a form that they must bring to their HR department and have turned back in. The employee does that work directly with us. So you as the employer only needs to fill that out, but it is up to the employee to complete that paperwork. If the employee does not complete the paperwork, they will fall out of eligibility and have to repay the loan. So it's important for that individual to understand that they'll be contracted with the state of Minnesota and need to comply with the paperwork required. The $125,000 maximum does not include the loan forgiveness. in the past done up to $125,000 in the scholarship program. So that's the scholarship program, and then there's a spot, and we'll go over this in a bit, but there's a spot to nominate up to 5 employees on the loan forgiveness side of things, and that will be a separate amount. So the legislation authorizes up to 1/3 of the $1.45 million is available for loan forgiveness. So not the whole amount is available in that pot. So $450,000 approximately will be available for grantees in the loan forgiveness. So, all right. Thank you all for those questions. Keep them coming. I appreciate that. So now we'll go and look at the application process. So this slide shows the login screen of the grant portal. I know many of you are familiar. So if you are an existing user, go ahead and log in, or if it's been a while, go ahead and use the forgot password button, and you'll be able to reset that and get back into your profile. New users, we do ask that you reach out and find out if your organization has a profile. There is a contact email address on the login page, or you can email me directly. I'm happy to help out. But find out if your organization has a profile, and we'll let you know. If you do, we will get you added under your organization's profile, and if you don't, you'll be creating a new organization profile. Once you are into the grant portal, you will then be on the home page, and typically that's where your house is and all your past grants are, and then you can click the apply button, and the apply button is in the upper green area there. That will take you to the list of all open applications from the Office of Rural Health, and you will look for the grant titled Home and Community-Based Services Fiscal Year 2023. Applications will automatically turn off at the deadline, so up until then you'll be able to click that blue apply button, and it will take you into the application. The application has these 9 sections. There's a directions field up there, and it will have a link there to the RFP, so that you can always find the RFP right within the application as well. Most of the directions are in the RFP, so if you have questions about how to answer a question, or what the question is looking for, please do keep your RFP handy and check those questions. This application can be completed at your own pace. There's a save button on the bottom, and there's a submit button. If you accidentally hit the submit button and didn't mean to, it will say, oh, you're missing these required fields. Please complete them. So there's that safeguard. But if you do happen to submit it before you're ready, let us know. I can bounce it back out to you. And because of the loan forgiveness being added to this program, we do have branching questions in this application. So should your organization only be applying for scholarship funds, you'll select scholarship and answer certain questions. Should you only be applying for loan forgiveness, your application is actually going to be much shorter, and you'll answer those questions and move on. If you're applying for both, you'll of course have all of the questions to answer. So in sections 1 and 2, this is your basic information, asking about entity, address, tax information, for contracting purposes, your SWIFT information. This is your vendor number with the state of Minnesota. This is how the payments get to you. I do not have the capability to see the bank account information and tell you where the money is going. So if you have any questions, you'll need to reach out to the SWIFT help desk. They're very helpful and very friendly over there, so feel free to reach out to them. This information is in the grant RFP if you need that. In the section 2 has summary information about who's all involved with the project, who's the project manager, who is the authorized account representative, the different folks who might be involved. So just general program information. Section 3 is your narrative. So we are looking for you to describe the need for your scholarship program or loan forgiveness program. We're looking for an analysis of educational or training needs of your staff, different concerns regarding retention and turnover, how many more residents or clients you could serve with a well-trained, advanced staff. And we ask that you provide any additional information about your organization's clientele, your geographical location, and different business circumstances. This is where your first set of branching questions are going to come from. So you will have a checkbox where you hit scholarship and or loan forgiveness. Under the scholarship program, we ask for an overview of your proposed scholarship program. If it's a new program or if you have a current program, what successes have you had with your current programs? Looking for different collaboration with educational institutions, how you plan to award your employees the scholarships. And we also will ask you to identify the courses of study that you'll be looking at for the scholarship program. And under the loan forgiveness program, we'll be asking you very similar questions. How do you plan to nominate your employees? Again, is this a new or current program? Will you be collaborating with any institutions to try and recruit staff? How will you track the eligibility? So prior to nomination, you do need to know, do your staff meet that minimum hours, 32 hours for 45 weeks? Do they have one of the program's degrees that we're looking for? And explain why the loan forgiveness will help your workforce. Section 4 is the eligibility and client services area. So we're going to ask you, are you located in Minnesota? That's a requirement of this grant. We're going to ask you the type of license that you hold, the number of clients that you serve, the percentage of clients over the age of 65. New this year, we're asking for a little bit more breakdown on the type of client payment. So are your clients paying cash? Are they paying insurance? Are they using waiver funds? We'll also be asking the operating expenses. This is directed towards your loan forgiveness question, but we'll be asking that of all employees. And then your employee turnover rates for the last couple of years. In sections 5 and 6, the budget and the budget narrative, this is only for your scholarship applicants. So like I said, the loan forgiveness, you'll be nominating your employees and then they'll work directly with us. This budget section is focused on those degree programs and trainings. So for each scholarship, course of study or training, we'll be looking for the following information, including the description or the certification and credential, the training institute or facilitator, the number of recipients, the individual cost per participant, the total cost, and the start and end dates. And I'm excited about this feature in the application that it's a grid that will auto calculate for you. So it does the math for you right in there, which is really nice. If you have any issues with that new feature, let us know and we'll be happy to help. Section 7 is your required attachments. So we do require that you submit your most recently audited financial statements. Note that your operating expenses should match the amount that you put in section 4. And we do require a due diligence form. That's a Minnesota state requirement of all granting organizations. And then we need a proof of your active licensure. So again, to be eligible, you must be located in the state of Minnesota and have active license. If you send an old license that expires, that's not an active license. So, and we do verify that you have active license, that your license number is active too. And then finally, you certify that everything in your application is correct and true to the best of your abilities. And new this year, another statute that was added is the requirement for conflict of interest. And so you must fill out this conflict of interest form. If you have any questions regarding it, if you are wondering, do we have a conflict? Let us know, and I'll be happy to work through that with you. If there is a conflict, you're not necessarily disqualified from being funded. We just have to have a mitigation plan in place to make sure that there's no favoritism or anything like that. I don't know any of my grantees, any of you on the call personally beyond this professional relationship. So that would be an example of a conflict of interest, is say my aunt were working at an HCBS provider and applying and getting funded. We wouldn't want that conflict in there. So, all right, we will check the questions here. All right. Can we apply if we currently have no employees eligible for scholarship, but plan to use the grant to recruit employees who may qualify for the scholarship? Yes. We just want to see that you have the plans in place of how you will award the scholarship. So you can let us know in the number of employees eligible that it might be 0 right now, but provide that in your narrative explanation, saying, we're hoping to recruit different folks with that. So my best advice to grantees is always to give the evaluators as much explanation as you can. Give them a picture. They don't know your organization. We have external evaluators. And so they are getting to know you through your application. So the most amount of information that you provide to the evaluators is always going to help you out. Question of, are the due diligence form and conflict of interest form separate forms to be signed and uploaded, or are they a part of the electronic application in terms of checking off boxes and certifying in the application directly? The due diligence form is a separate form. There's a link directly in the online application that will take you to an external website to download the form and fill it out, and then you'll upload it. The conflict of interest is built right into the application itself. So there's a link to read what a conflict of interest is, and then you'll just be able to fill that out and sign it right within the application itself. Any other questions from folks? I know it's a lot of information. I see a lot of familiar names on the call, so thank you for joining, and some new names too, which is great. The time frame to spend funds is June 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2026. All right. An LALD that is pursuing her PhD in gerontology. Somebody is wondering if they would be eligible for the program. Yes, they are technically eligible. This year for the Oh, I guess, sorry, I read that as loan forgiveness, excuse me. So LALD pursuing her PhD in gerontology would be eligible for scholarship application. Just note that the LALD must be working in a direct care role, at least 10 hours a week with the clients. These are all wonderful questions. Thank you all. I'm going to put my information up on the slide just so you all have it. Go ahead, and I'm here to answer questions still for a while, so as you think of them, but I'm going to put my information on the slide. Please do contact me with any questions. Like I said, there will be questions posted. I can actually show that to you. Give me just one moment. On the Office of Rural Health website is the HCBS funding, and I will show you directly where the FAQs are posted. So this is the HCBS area, and the FAQs are posted right here. And it will say when they were last updated. So folks have already asked some questions this year. And that document, again, will be updated. Once a week is when it will be updated. And that's right on the ORHPC funding page. Okay. Definition for direct care role. It gets a little dicey, a little bit questionable, because we do know that we're all caring for our clients. But the main definition is that they are providing services directly to the individual. So are they providing care? Are they helping with activities? Are they working directly with the clients is what we're looking for in that area. And Mary, if you have further questions about that, I'm happy to answer. It sounds like you've got quite kind of a specific situation. I would love to have a conversation with you offline about that. There's another question that asks, is the electronic application set up such that it's sequential, or can you work on different parts of the application and be able to save without going in order? Yes, you can work in the different sections at different times. I know that sometimes you're thinking about one area and you can get that out on paper really easily. So you can jump around within the application. You don't have to have done previous questions to answer the other questions. Alrighty. Give it another couple of minutes here. I know we were scheduled to go until 11, but if you don't have any other questions, just know that if questions are asked now, I will be taking all of the questions that were asked today during this session and putting them on the FAQ as well. So I'll answer those in the written format as well, so you have access to those. But if there's no other questions, feel free to hop off and have a few minutes back in your day. I'm grateful to be able to spend the time with you today. Thank you, everybody.